Hi, today is October 19th. I had to double check. And we've just finished pronunciation meetup. So we had a lot of good words today, and I was so happy to see them already there before we started. So that was great. And it was almost the perfect number. I added some at the bottom because we were talking about Newton and things. But about 30 words is good for an hour. And starting with the first one, little, little. So those T's change to D's when there's two T's in the middle most of the time. Some of the other examples I put were butter, brittle, and litter. And I should point out, like it came up in the meetup, it's totally fine to not change them to D's and keep them T's, little. Um, so little is the correct perfect way. Little with a D is what you'll hear most often from native speakers of American English. And that's how we change Italy into Italy. That T will change to a D most of the time for most people. Italy. And I know somebody had put this on one line to use it as a phrase, Little Italy. 5, Halloween. Ha or ha, ha or ha, Halloween. Dun dun dun. And 6, world. This comes up a lot, but it is a difficult word. It's a short word, but there's a lot of movement. Were, think of it as W-E-R-E, like where were you? And old, so you need time for your tongue to move from the R, my tongue is curled back, whirl, and then it moves to the L position. So that time it takes to move from the R to the L, I'm making noise, and that's what makes it almost 2 syllables. World, world. And hold it in the L position a little longer than you might usually so that we can hear the L. If not, it will sound like word. Whirl, world. 7, due diligence. So D-U-E sounds the same as D-O, do, and diligence. That G in the spelling sounds like a J, gents, diligence. Advisory, this is number 8, advisory. That looks like an S but sounds like a Z, Z-re, advisory. 9, strategy. Make a good strategy. Portfolio. I'm not really releasing my T, portfolio. I'm holding it there. Portfolio, portfolio. 11, reported. The R-E isn't stressed, so it will most likely change to R or R, reported. And the T changes to a D. 12, sits. The important thing is the vowel. So the I is a little lower than the E. If you say seats, it sounds like S-E-A-T-S, like these seats are saved instead of sits. She sits all day. That was my true example. Sits. 13, rags. That S looks like an S, but sounds like a Z. Rags. 14, clean. Clean. So remember, it's a single syllable word, but you're still going to stretch the vowel. E, clean. 15, third. Think of this IR as just R, just making the noise R. You put your tongue curled back, near the front, but curled back, and you just make noise. That's it. Third. And then go back up. Third. And 16, drives. And we talked about using more pressure when you have your tongue in the D position behind your front top teeth. You should have more pressure. This is my teeth, this is my tongue. D, dr. I'm pulling it back to make the R. And as I pull it back, I use a lot of pressure. Dr. And it makes, as I'm pulling it back, then air escapes over it and it makes that dr noise. if you don't hear that noise, you might be not using enough pressure, and it might be touching more than once, instead of drives. And that has a lot of sounds in it. Drive with a V, and then that looks like an S, but sounds like a Z. Drives. 17 is her. So after you make the air for the H without any sound down here, not her, but only airflow, her. Just keep your tongue pulled down and back, her. 18, than. This is the vowel than, less than. If it's spelled with an E, it will be then, like head. So if this, then that. We should have practiced that one. 19, extra. So the letter X is really a K and an S combination. And so you don't have to pronounce the K like X, just X. You're putting the back of your tongue up there in the K position to stop the air. X. And then tra. The TR is the same as the DR because they're made in the same place, and you have to have enough pressure. Tra. I forgot what the word was. Tra. Extra. 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 And 20 is one of the words that I just think, why do we still spell of with an O and an F when we pronounce it as a U and a V? So the F and the V are made in the same way, the top teeth and the bottom lip. You don't have to put it on top, but pull your bottom lip in with pressure so that there's vibration. If you don't have enough pressure, it'll sound like or just making noise. Of. And the first part is the schwa. The tongue is very low, pulled back. Of. And 21, falls. This is another one where you should hold your tongue in the L position longer than you might usually think you need to, so that the L can be heard. And it looks like an S, but it sounds like a Z. Falls. If you don't hold the L enough, it'll sound like faz. And if you don't have a Z and you have an S, it'll sound like fos. It's very close to false, true and false. But that's the SZ at the end. So make sure you have a Z on the end of 21, falls. 22, nest. The vowel is as in yes and head, nest. 23, culture. This is one where I can I can hold my tongue in the L position at the same time I'm making the K in the back. Cull. And then pull it back for the chur. Culture, with a lot of pressure. Culture. Burial. It can be spelled like bear. Burial. 25. We don't have to say those T's. You can say button, but most native speakers of American English will say button, button, button. 26, those two T's sound like a D. Battle. Bad, like good and bad. Dull. Battle. And 27, mountain. You can say mountain, no problem. But you'll hear mountain. Mount, hold it, and make a noise. Mountain. It has to have enough to make it sound like two syllables. Mountain. And 28, don't pronounce the OT as ought or oat. It's it. Pivot. It's the same vowel in both syllables. Piv, so keep your tongue lower, not high, or it'll sound like pivot. Piv, keep it a little lower. Pivot. And you. I didn't know how else to spell you to make it more simple, but if you just think of it as the same as how do you pronounce the name of the letter, you. If you just use a Y and a U sound, because you're really making the vowel oo, you. Maybe an EW as ooh, but starting with your tongue in a high position, sliding down, you. And in the midst of all these words, masculinity, 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 and hair. This was in contrast to her. So 17, her, your tongue is just curled back, making R noise. And hair, you're really making the vowel e, like head. And yes, hair, hair. So you make time to make the vowel e before you curl it back for the R. Hair. And 32, thoughts. The vowel is ah, thoughts. And the difference between 32 and 35, taught, is the T and the TH. So if you're trying to say thoughts, what are your thoughts? But it sounds like a T, tots. That means your tongue is behind your teeth when it should be further forward. And you need airflow. Thoughts. And 33 and 34 go together if you're near Boston. Newton Center. You can say Newton Center perfectly, but you probably hear Newton, Newton Center. And that's where we ended. So thank you for coming tonight, and I hope some of you can come on Wednesday. We'll do more words and sentences. Some of the things I will get started on Wednesday's list are connections and sound changes, like suck at it, sick of it, a lotta. How about you? What about you? So those include sound changes and connections, and that's what we do more of on Wednesdays. So have a good evening.